Support for this podcast comes from the first one with DJ Khaled, a new podcast only available on Amazon Music.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Khaled, and this is the first one. I talk to the most iconic artists on the planet about songs that didn't change the game, but changed their life. We hear from all the A-list music stars like J Balvin, Nas, and Kelly Rowland, who tell their stories about the first hits that took them to being overlooked to being overbooked. Join me every Thursday, only on Amazon Music.
Empire.
We're celebrating episode 100 with one of the best insiders in the game. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for the 100th episode of the Football Jones podcast. Man, time flies when you're having fun, as they say. Yes, episode 100. I appreciate you guys. I hope you've been enjoying this. I have just really enjoyed sharing extra insight. Obviously, I write all the time, usatoday.com, but I enjoy being able to take you inside some of these conversations because there's so many times when I'm writing stories that I might use like 3 or 4 quotes. I mean, they might give me enough for 800 to 1,000 words. Sometimes I can talk my bosses into 1,500 words, but there's so much material that I don't get to in print, and so that's why I love the podcast, because we get to go inside and I get to share with you guys more than what the written word will let me, the space limitations will let me share with you. And so I appreciate your support, those of you I hear from who listen faithfully and share it with your friends. I appreciate it. Even those of you guys who I don't hear from, hey, drop me a line, mjones@usatoday.com, or on Twitter @ByMikeJones. And let's continue to grow forward, onward, and upward. Appreciate my guy Bram and Empire Media. I'm just happy we've gotten to this mark, 100. It's a special episode, and our guest, like I said, one of the best insiders in the game, Jay Glazer of Fox NFL coverage. If you know anything about Jay, he has been doing this a long time, very well connected. He is plugged in, coaches players, very good with players. As you know, he wears a lot of hats. So not just with Fox, he also trains UFC fighters, trains NFL athletes. And you've seen him on Ballers, so he's got a little bit of acting career there. I miss Ballers. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, we're going to talk to Jay about the home stretch of the season here, and then he's also got some work that he's doing outside of his journalism that we're talking about, as he works with, I don't know if you know, his kind of, I would say, not quite a ministry, but his mission. He serves retired military men and women, and he also trains them right along with former NFL players, and together he helps them transition from their first careers into the next chapter of their lives. Really puts a strong emphasis on mental health, and he gets into that, why that's so important to him, his own battles with mental health. And it's interesting because we were talking about this last week with Brandon Marshall. This conversation is becoming more and more on the minds, and it's important that we continue to talk about this stuff. And because everybody that you come in contact with, you don't know what somebody's dealing with in their lives, but the only way we can get through tough times is to take care of one another and to reach out to people if we're struggling, or reach out to people to check on them, because you never know if they just need a hand. They just need to hear from somebody. And so it's very important. We got to continue to take care of each other, and I just think this is awesome work that Jay Glazer is doing. Again, awesome NFL insider, and what he's doing to make a difference in the lives of veterans and retired NFL players is top notch as well. And so we're going to get into all of that right now.
What's the best way to make mashed potatoes? or fried rice, or lasagna. Hi, I'm Dave Chang, chef-founder of Momofuku, and on our new podcast, Recipe Club, I'll be cooking and debating recipes with my friend Chris Ying and a rotating cast of smart, highly capable characters from around the culinary world. Every week, the three of us will each bring a recipe to the table and debate. Recipe Club is out now. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's almost that time when you put your name in a grid and hope that your box hits the final score. But you don't have to wait until February to start winning. With Boxes, you can play box pools every day for every game. Boxes is completely free to play, and you win big. Fans who download the app at the App Store or go to boxes.com, that's BOXIZ.com, and use my code BALL20 can enter our contest, where the lucky winner with the final score to the Chiefs-Saints game will receive $100. We'll have new games every week and incredible prizes in the playoffs, and for the big game, that will include tickets to games next year when fans can finally return in 2021. So go to boxes.com for more info or download the app now. BOXIZ. Use the code BALL20 when you sign up and when you enter our contest for the KC New Orleans game. It's free for you and your friends to get in and win. Boxes. It's anyone's game.
All right, here we are now. You know him, Jay Glazer from Fox NFL pregame show and all of their coverage there. Also, the founder of Unbreakable. We're going to get into it all today on the Football Jones podcast. Jay, how you doing?
Good, brother. How are you, man?
I'm good. You know, this is a crazy season. We're having some compelling games as we're coming down the home stretch. What have you made of this season and just the way things are shaping up here in the final month?
First of all, it's amazing we even got to this point. It really is. And, you know, going into this season, think about how we were at the start of the season. I think a lot of us were figuring, man, how is this possibly going to happen? And all of a sudden, here we are just a couple of weeks away from this, you know, going all the way down to the stretch here. You know, but I think it's pretty interesting. I think, you know, for those new coaches, I think it was really hard to build a culture. You know, you had basically 3 weeks to try and redo a whole culture into place. You know, I had a friend of mine who left one team, who's been there forever, and went to another team. And he said, it's so weird because my teammates on my last team, I died for those guys. And this team, there's no way for us to really build camaraderie or build this brotherhood there. You know, there's obviously, we don't go to dinner together. We don't do anything. We go on the road together. We're all secluded. It's just different. It's hard to really get that same kind of brotherhood that you would, that really builds these winning cultures.
Yeah, and I guess that makes it that much more impressive when you see some of these first-year coaches like Kevin Stefanski and the turnaround that Ron Rivera is pulling off there. What have you been most impressed with by some of these first-year coaches?
Well, first of all, Ron, because he has an uphill battle because he needs to change a whole culture over there, not just in that locker room, but that whole football team. If you lose over and over and over every year, it starts at the top and the whole culture that's in that building. A lot of the time, these owners, their egos such where they can't look at themselves in the mirror. Like, you know, we talk about Unbreakable. We have a whole thing. You walk in that door, man, you check that ego at the door. And you know, the only way to kind of get better is to find out what you're not good at and do better at that. But you see teams, they perennially lose, and it starts at the top. And certainly Washington was one of those cases. For Ron to come in there and change how business is done in there, culture inside that building, in that locker room also, where now it's not, oh, here we go again. Yeah, the wheels are just, the sky is going to fall. Unreal. And then what he does with Alex Smith, who's the comeback player of the decade, the century. Him and Rocky Bleier are the two greatest comeback stories in NFL history. For people who don't know, Rocky Bleier got a piece of his foot blown off in Vietnam and shot in the thigh. He came all the way back and played for the Steelers after that and won 4 Super Bowls with Bradshaw and that team. But man, this is it's incredible what he's done. And as far as Stefanski, you know, he had to change some culture in there also. But I don't know how much Jimmy Haslam's changed, you know, or how much he's, you know, stepped away from this. But he's done a masterful job, because also a guy like Baker, who kind of wants to do it Baker's way, it's really hard to change some things when you can't get with a guy for all that time and suddenly, help him bend on some of the things that he needed some work on. He's done a great job. Yeah. But I think that's where, like, conversely, like a place like the Cowboys, people are like, oh my God, first of all, they've been riddled with injuries. But second of all, that place, as much as anything, if you're going to try and change a culture, because there's so much more that goes into Dallas Cowboys than any other team out there, that is so much more of a difficult proposition for any coach.
So what has your impression of Mike McCarthy's work been? And Jerry Jones just said, hey, there's no changes. He's coming back next year. What are you hearing? And what have your assessment been of just how he's gone about kind of trying to lay that foundation this year?
I think they knew it was time. They wanted a grunt in there, and that's what Mike is, and it's a good term. But again, to lose your starting quarterback, like 48 linemen, your linebackers in Sean Lee and Leighton Vander Esch, every defensive back. I mean, it's been, but the problem is it's been the Dallas Cowboys. So there's way more attention. Like the Dallas Cowboys in a position where you could have any player on that team, they get more attention than the center fielder for the Yankees and the center for the Lakers and the shortstop for the Red Sox. It's just, they're just different. So if this was, if they were the Chargers or the Colts or the Jaguars or the Falcons, we would look at it and go, okay, they're screwed up from injuries and it's just different.
Gotcha. What has been your biggest surprise so far this season that, whether good or whether bad, what would you say it would be?
My biggest surprise was Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
My biggest surprise. Yeah.
What do you make of that there?
I've been trying to find something that's comparable to that with a lot of people in the league. And we can't. We just can't come up with something.
Yeah.
And, you kind of, there's been, players in baseball who've gotten the yips, the confidence messed with, who are on the top of their game. A guy like Steve Sachs or Chuck Nalba or what, but man, not like this, where a guy comes out, second pick of the draft, plays like an MVP, they pay him like an MVP, and boom, it gets here because they went and drafted a second, quarterback in the second round. And you remember, it's the same team that got rid of their Super Bowl MVP to make sure Carson didn't have to feel any pressure. So they've done a lot to take care of him, but yeah, I'm pretty shocked how he's handled that.
How do you see that playing out?
Man, I don't see a viable solution.
Yeah.
So he's $34 million against their salary cap next year. If he starts for the Eagles, if he's a backup for the Eagles, if he starts for somebody else, he's a backup for somebody else. There's no viable solution for this. The only viable solution. No, there's none.
So for you, when you look at these teams that are starting to shape up, at the top here, obviously we know the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Buffalo had a big statement. The NFC seems like it's kind of wide open. Where do you see this headed down the stretch and towards the playoffs?
I did think that going into this season, the teams that have been together would be the ones, because again, it's hard to build a culture when you come right in. So I thought Chiefs would be, Patrick Mahomes is damn near perfect, but I thought they'd be Seattle. I did think Pittsburgh, a lot of these teams, the Saints, I thought that there would be, the stronger teams out there because they know each other, have been together. And think about what a huge advantage that is. If you know what the coach is looking for, what the culture is, how your brother is on your right and your left, that's a huge, huge advantage for you. So I thought these teams would be the ones that rose to the top, but I don't see anybody derailing the Chiefs.
Yeah. And a lot of that reason was why I kind of thought the Eagles would be pretty good this year because of the continuity. But, man, it's been crazy.
The wheels just fall off.
Yeah. What has been the craziest? How many seasons have you covered the league?
28.
What's the craziest year been that you've covered? How does this compare?
By far.
Yeah.
And look, the 9/11 year, for me personally, I lost one of my best friends in the Trade Center, and I was working at CBS at the time, And I went and turned on New York One TV, which is where I got my start, to find out what the weather was to see if I was going to go walk to the office that day or take a cab. And all of a sudden you see the Trade Center and it hits, and man, I end up, running down there looking for him for kind of a few days. But I remember that year, if you weren't really living in the area, you didn't fully grasp it, but not like we did in New York. And they got on a conference call, all the players, the NFLPA, their team leaders basically, throughout the league on a conference call. And many of them wanted to play. And the Kevin Mawais and the Michael Strahans and them were saying, we are not playing.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't get it. We're not playing. We're not playing this week. That is it. And it just, that whole year, everything just meant a little bit more, and as bad as everything was when we were down there, I think it's the way God wanted us to act as far as the love that everybody gave each other and how supportive we were for each other and how much people were giving out free hugs that day and that whole week and cheering on the first responders the whole time down there. And it was just, again, for me, it's close because I was in New York. You saw it all from, where the Giants were practicing. And it was just, that was a crazy year because it was, but I guess it's different because we really needed, sports meant more that year as an escape.
Right.
And I remember being at CBS that week, one of the weeks also, when America finally went in and bombed, the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan. And we're on our show and kind of, announced the news during the show also. That was a wild year, man. And then Super Bowl, they had U2 playing and all the names of the, those who perished went up on a screen behind them. And then there's my boys' names. I had a couple of them up there. That was a wild year.
Wow. Do you feel like this year, they've been successful so far. Can they get through this year without going to any type of bubbles? Right now they're against that, maybe local bubbles, but we'll see. But what are you expecting?
They don't want a bubble. They don't want a postseason bubble. Even like this week, I said on our show that they're asking the 49ers for help just to, maybe wear your trackers more, get some more data, see how people's personal, their mental health is, just to be able to use that as data in case. It's the last possible, they don't want that option. They don't want to go that route.
Yeah,
I do think I do think it's been helpful. If they weren't playing, I think there'd be a lot more issues of COVID among players and coaches, and because they have to be tested so much, because they have so many rules, it's kept them safer.
Yeah, I agree.
Ravens, and you got a strength coach walking around with his mask down and putting his tracker away.
Yeah, exactly. Now you deal with a lot of athletes. How have you kind of worked with them on just already they're mentally strong people, but as I see your t-shirt there, unbreakable is a mindset. What are you doing? How are you advising these guys on just how to get through such a trying year with so much swirling around in our country?
Be vulnerable. Tell them all, man. We don't have to act like we're so tough we can get through this thing. That's not how, this right here is not strength. Vulnerability is true strength. And man, when it's getting to you, and I always say, when the roommates in your head are getting to you, man, talk to someone. Right? Call us. Let's make sure we all stay connected. One thing we did we have our charity MVP, Emerging Vets and Players. We're taking former combat vets and merging them together with former pro athletes to give them a new team again. We have these mental health huddles. Right when this whole thing happened, we try to change the narrative from socially distanced to physically distanced, but staying socially connected. So make sure we're still connected. Make sure, it was a hard time for us. Nate Boyer, my co-founder of MVP, and I, when this quarantine first went down, he and I were on 24-hour suicide watch with a lot of our veterans because, we're constantly telling these guys not to isolate. And all of a sudden they're being told to isolate. Yeah. We had to change that narrative real fast. And it's not just for them, it's for everybody out there. So we have to almost force ourselves to call someone. And we always tell them, okay, if it's not for you, then for them. Be of service to other people. Call somebody else. make sure they're okay. Just stay connected, because it's so easy for us to get in our own heads and isolate. And that's when the roommates in our head do not talk nicely to each other.
When did you first get into that type of work, and how did you feel like drawn to know that that was a need that you wanted to? I mean, because you're busy as an NFL insider, you're constantly grinding. How were you able to make time and devote a portion of your life to this work?
Well, I suffer from, well, I won't say suffer. I'm empowered from depression. I've had depression my whole life, anxiety my whole life. It's not like something that happened when I got older. As a little kid, I was getting taken to therapists all the time and psychiatrists. And so the two things that have kind of helped me get through the gray, if you would, like I live in the gray constantly, and it freaking sucks, but it's my life. And that's why I have a big personality, to overcompensate for kind of that pain behind my eyes, if you will. It's just always there. It's just it's like a drowning, numbing pain that just pulling you down all the time. And the two things that have helped me is having a team. And that's why I started Unbreakable. I've always had a fight team with me. If you want to have a team, the roommates in my head talk nicely to each other, a little bit nicer to each other, and being of service to others. So I started MVP to help them out, but as much to help myself out also. Like, again, I need to be of service to others. And I've had a lot of, you don't have to be successful to do something for others. When I was in New York City, I used to get, and I was broke, but I used to go to the post office there, the 10001 zip code. Letters to Santa would go there. And I go get these letters to Santa and give them out to people. And we go fulfill gifts to these. I mean, some of the saddest things letters you ever saw of what these children were asking for. And me and my fight team would drive up in the projects in New York and go deliver these to people's doorsteps. And so I've always needed to be of service to others. But, one thing I could do is I could coach, right? So I wasn't a really good fighter, but I could coach. And I've coached, when Fox made me stop fighting years ago, I had a couple of MMA fights, and then, they made me stop my first day on the job. I couldn't stop for my own mental health. As sad as it sounds, like for me, inside a cage is where I feel like I belong. It's comfortable for me. And, for a while, I felt like I belonged there probably in the wrong way. Now I know it just makes me different, and different is good. Different leads to success. So I had to learn how to start coaching guys. I've coached over 1,000 NFL players in MMA and the fighter mentality. Man, we've had a ton of champion fighters. We've just, it's the way I'm able to, it's where I feel comfortable. Then again, where I know, because I've done that, I'm different. So I can take me being different outside our walls, outside our doors, and use it, walk in any room I want, and be like, I'm not like the rest of y'all in here. I'm different.
Yeah. And now you're releasing, GNC is dropping a new supplement line. So you're already working on the body health. Talk to me about that. How and what goes into, there's thousands of supplements out there. You got to make sure these guys are putting the right stuff into their bodies. Talk to us about that research and what birthed that vision for you.
Well, think about how important it is for us. We trained over 1,000 NFL players. And I tell our NFL players in there, when they come in here, if you listen to us, we will change your grandkids' lives. Like we will, because we're going to build you up in a different way. We're going to build you up from the inside out, right? Again, everybody can be, there's a million big, fast, strong guys out there. They can't do crap when it comes to their sport. But if we can get them here and here, that's where that strength comes up from. So, as hard as we train you, we recover you harder. And that's why that's so important. When you come in our gym, Unbreakable, which is, our gym is like the Oscars and the Super Bowl wrapped up in one every day. It's unreal. I mean, you'll walk in there, man, and your workout group will be you and Wiz Khalifa and Demi Lovato and Chris Pratt, Sylvester Stallone, and these 5 NFL players and this business leader, and then an amputee, Marine, door gunner amputee, and Navy SEAL. It's just, man, it's so cool. But again, it's interesting also, like our place, our gym's probably the only gym in the world. We have 0 mirrors in the gym. None.
Really?
None. Because I don't want anybody's back turned to the rest of the team. I'm talking about teams. And we also have a therapist on staff. So if you're one of our people, we have a therapist you can talk to there. So we talk about building you up from the inside out. Like all of us there, we talk about our scars. We talk about what makes us different. that, and then we are a relentless bunch. We are relentless, which we get from the Randy Coutures and Chuck Liddells of the world who are part of this with us. But we just don't stop. And in order to do that, we've got to be fueled the right way. So as you walk in Unbreakable, you get greeted with a pre-workout drink, right? Whether you want it or not, we stand there right there, boom. Halfway through your training session, they come over and give you amino acids, right? To keep building you up. At the end of it, we give you your protein, which is kind of tailor-made to how you want it. So we're constantly fueling you. And in the past, I used to be a Jersey meathead. And I used to just go. And man, we eventually I got the recovery part of it. I think before everybody else. And I really realized it once, I'm at whatever team I'm at, and these players get fined $9,700 if they don't go to treatment. Mm-hmm. Like, if it's that important where they're going to fine you, I'm going to make it even more important at our place. So as hard as we train you, part of it is your recovery. We prehab you, we rehab you. So that's why that's so important to me. Our Unbreakable line, but also the Unbreakable line helps with MVP. It's a portion of the proceeds goes to building up our veterans and building up MVP. The coolest thing with our MVP charity, and what we do is for MVP, we gather together, like I said, for about a half hour. We work out just to give you a burn again and care about your brother or your sister on your right or left. But after, we sit around and we have these mental health calls, and we talk about why it's okay to be different, where our issues come from. A lot of us, a lot of guys, we helped Alden Smith get back in the league. It's because he admitted to all of us, man, I just never felt worthy of being loved. So I sabotaged my life all the time. Wow. And it wasn't until I met you guys that's the first time I felt worthy of being loved. And, we talk real in that place. No one's questioning our manhood or our womanhood, but we're in 5 locations right now. And of the 5 locations we have in the 5 years we've had, the majority of our MVPers attempted suicide before meeting us. And I'm saying majority, it's over 50%, but it's probably upwards in the 60s or 70s of our players and vets, not just our veterans. Of our active members of MVP, who, of these 5 years, 5 locations, the number of suicides we've had during this time is 0.
Wow.
We've not lost a single one. Because we're trying to remind these guys, it wasn't the uniform that made you great. Right? Uniform gave you this team that's great, but it's what's behind your ribcage that makes you great. And for those combat vets who go overseas and they do stuff you and I can never imagine, right? And it's like they have grace under fire and courage under pressure. Man, they are loyal and they're on point. And they come back over here and they're like, oh, I'm different. And we're like, no, you're different, dude. Different is good. Different leads to success. And they all just want to kind of fit in the crowd and be a face in the crowd. I'm like, no, be the damn crowd. Don't fit in the crowd, be the crowd. You're different. You need to hold your head up high over everybody else and say, I like the rest of y'all. And same with our NFL players and our ex-fighters and our ex-Olympians kind of look at it like, oh man, I used to play in the NFL. No, dude, you play in the NFL, right? Are you kidding me? And you play in the NFL is not who you are, but what's behind that ribcage that got you to beat out millions upon millions to play in the NFL? That's who you are. That makes you different. And that suddenly doesn't just leave, but when you're by yourself, it's harder to remember what your greatness is. When you got a team, and I know they do different jobs, obviously, but they both look up to each other so much. That's why I thought it was so brilliant to match them up together. You have these pro athletes that they idolize. Now, like idolizing them and building them up, it reminds them, of how special they are. In the same right, you have all these combat vets who, wow, and they talk about everything. We open up about everything, stuff they can't talk about to their families about. And they're suddenly telling these to these NFL players and lift it. All of a sudden they lift these players up and remind them of how important they are. And that it's not the player that these people love, it's the person that they love.
Gotcha. That's got to be a really rewarding feeling at the end of the day when you have those conversations and you see just the benefits of these.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like I said, that's the only time I see through the gray and see a little blue is, and my crew, and they know my struggles. So I get weekly texts from these combat vets and whatnot. just how you doing? Love you, brother. Making sure you're good. Because they also know I carry a lot with me. I carry the whole crew with me.
Right.
You know, like, we're doing all these things. And yeah, those, like I always say, the roommates in my head don't talk nice to each other all the time. So it's really cool when I get, like we just had our 5th year anniversary the other day, and on our Zoom, so we're Zooming right now. Man, we had 70 of us on the other night on Zoom. 70 combat vets and pro athletes. And they're all just talking about what MVP's done for them. And some of them are very successful, but still need that team.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, we started with 10 homeless veterans, and all 10 have jobs, all 10 have homes. 4 of them now work for me at MVP and or Unbreakable. Those are rewarding. We've had a couple people that are just, man, we literally met them. We have a woman named Andy who we met her. She was homeless, strung out on drugs, and now she works for me at both places. She coaches for us, and she's an executive at MVP. And it's man, every time she talks, I cry. It's incredible. It really is. It's unbelievable. It's incredible what these cats have done.
Wow. Now that's the kind of stories that we need in this day and age, with just as crazy everything is. It's good to hear.
To have a hero tell you, thank you, you saved my life. That's man, there's just nothing like it. It's way better than anybody's ever felt winning a Super Bowl. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, so everybody by getting the Unbreakable line that supports the MVP, tell everybody where they can get this, your supplement line.
And it's amino acids, it's pre-workout drinks, it's proteins, it's ready to drink proteins. So you can go to gnc.com or go to your local GNC, and again, come support our MVP Foundation, come support Unbreakable. And then we also we're trying to start a movement, which is hashtag I am Unbreakable. What makes you unbreakable? And that means, what have you overcome? What scars are you proud of? What makes you different? In today's day and age, it's harder out there because we're all freaking comparing ourselves to everybody else's filtered fraction of a second on Instagram. That ain't the real world, man. But it puts a lot more pressure on all of us to think that we're left out, to feel that we're not as good as everybody else. And that's why mental health has become so much more. And that's why I'm talking about it more, because it's so much more to battle here, because it's just not real. But our emotions, how it makes us feel, are very real.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's crazy. Just last week I had Brandon Marshall on, and we were talking about his House of Athlete and the mental health and everything. And here we continue the conversation here. So I'm glad we
talking about it. Like for a while there. Look, again, I started wrestling in '82, boxing in '88, MMA around '99, 2000, coaching in 2004 or five. We've trained over 1,000 football players. I think I've wrestled every single one of them, from the Calais Campbells to the Kyle Longs to the Andy Whitworths. And man, I'm a little 5'7" Jewish guy. I shouldn't do this. So I used to brag about my scars all the time. I'd brag I have herniated C2, 3, 4, 5, ruptured L1, L2 twice, L4, L5 4 times. I'm missing that disc. I've dislocated my elbow, torn my bicep, torn my calf, broken my nose 7 times. I've gotten dinged in the head more than you could ever imagine. And I am freaking proud of every single one of them. Like, I brag about that. I've gotten it doing something that 99.99999% of the world is unwilling or unable to do. So I brag about that. But then I realized this year, man, I need to start bragging about the other scars. I need to start realizing all the stuff that I've gone through here to show everybody else it's okay, right? And it's okay that there's times that, man, I just can't get out of bed because I just feel the sky is falling and the world's against me, and I feel hopeless and helpless and just so dark. It's awful, and yet I've come through it. So I want to start bragging about those scars and showing dudes and everybody, you ain't alone. It's okay, man. You're not alone.
Great reminder, great lesson there. Jay, I really appreciate your time. Everybody go check out the Unbreakable line, contribute to this great work that he's doing, and we'll be seeing you on Fox. And I really wish we could say we'd see you on Ballers again. Maybe we can get
me too, man. Freaking Dwayne's schedule, he's killing me. I love him.
All right, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Hey everybody, it's Elaine Welteroth, and I'm hosting a new podcast called Built to Last by American Express, where we will dive deep into the stories, history, and continued legacy of small businesses that shape American culture. Our debut season will focus on Black-owned small businesses that need our support now more than ever. In each episode, we feature the story of a Black business trailblazer that has inspired a modern Black-owned business. First up is Pinky Cole of Atlanta's food truck turned restaurant, Saletti Vegan. We'll also chat with Hanifa Mwemba, the cutting-edge designer behind the Hanifa 3D digital fashion show. Plus, we'll check in with Issa Rae, our modern-day Renaissance woman. We hope that it encourages all of our listeners to support these businesses as well as the Black-owned businesses in your own communities. Tune in for these amazing stories and others on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Okay, thanks again to Jay Glazer, and hey, be a part of his efforts. Go to GNC. If you work out, buy Jay Glazer's line, and those proceeds are going to his work with the veterans, and it's a good cause. So again, as I said, we all got to take care of each other. 2020 has been a very tough year on a number of fronts, but we are getting through it. The light is at the end of the tunnel. Let's hope and pray it's bigger and better things waiting for us in 2021. But make sure that you're reaching out to your friends. People, maybe if you haven't heard from in a little while, reach out to them. Make sure they're okay. If you are struggling, going through some tough times, you've got friends, you've got family, hopefully that you can reach out to. And I know me, myself, when I'm dealing with something, I don't want to reach out to people because I feel like I'm being a burden. The people in your life care about you, and you're not a burden. So just pick up the phone, shoot a text, ask to go to lunch or coffee or something like that. Let's all take care of each other and hope and pray for a bright and prosperous 2021. Anyway, we're coming down the home stretch of the year and the NFL season. And as we discussed, it's going to be highly intriguing, highly entertaining, and we're going to be taking you inside once again all the way through up into the Super Bowl with the biggest names in the game, the brightest minds in the journalism business who are covering it, and just really opening, peeling back that curtain for you. So thanks again for listening to the Football Jones podcast. Thanks for helping me celebrate episode 100 by taking this link, tweeting it out, sharing it on social media, or shooting a text message to a couple friends and saying, hey, check out this podcast that I like. And hey, drop me an email, mjones@usatoday.com, and let me know what kind of stuff you would like to hear more of. Thanks, and have a great day. Happy holidays to you all.